Shalom. Today we're going to learn a story. Features in the Gemara Bרכות, Daf Samech Gimel. We're going to learn part of the commentary of Rav Kook on this Gemara over here. Let's see what happens over here. Okay. Amar Rav Safra. Rabbi Abahu have a mishtai. Rabbi Abahu used to tell this story, used to mention the story. כשירד חנינה בן אחי רבי ישוע לגולה. היה מעבר שנים וקובע חודשים בחוץ לארץ. So we've got a תלמיד חכם. His name is חנינה בן אחי רבי ישוע. And he left Israel, ירד לגולה, went down from Israel to exile. And when he was in exile over there, he was מעבר שנים וקובע חודשים. He was the Beit Din that people came to in order to define when Rosh Chodesh is, when the new month starts, when we need to have a leap year. All of that's okay. Just a little bit of background. Chanina ben Achi Rabbi Yeshua features in the Midrash, in the Sifri. It describes that him, together with Rav Yudah and a few others, they're going to leave Israel. And they reach a place called Nitzavin. And when they reach over there, they look back at Israel and they start crying and they say, Shkula yeshivat Eretz Israel kechol haTorah kula. Living in Israel is like, it's valued, or weighs the same as the whole Torah together, and they go back to Israel. They don't leave Israel. In the Yerushalmi, we have a story of how we actually left afterwards, some kind of strange story where Christians managed to kind of put some kind of spell on him or something, and after that he leaves Israel. Later on, it features that if you want a good Beit Din, if you want to find a good, serious Beit Din, you need to go either to Rabbi Chanina's Beit Din or Rav Yudah's Beit Din. Those are good Beit Din. We need to understand that the time when these people are leaving Israel and go into other places are days where things in Israel are very hard. It's nearly impossible to continue living a Jewish life in Israel. The Romans are in power. They're not allowing anything. It's a little bit after the destruction of Beit HaMikdash, and they want to make sure that there's no Jewish life left in Israel. It's after, most probably we're speaking of, after Mered Bar Kokhba, and they really want to make sure that nothing's left in Israel. It's clearly after Mered Bar Kokhba, because we'll see later on that we're speaking here of after Rabbi Akiva's days. So in these days, where Jewish life is impossible in Israel, originally you have these sages who live in Israel in order to establish the Torah world and to keep it going outside of Israel, yet they decide not to do it. And later on, Rabbi Chanina anyway leaves Israel. Okay, this is who we're speaking of. We're speaking about one of the great sages of that generation. And what he does is, one of the things that has to be done is to continue having a Jewish calendar. They can't continue with the Beit Din in Israel. There's no Beit Din in Israel that can continue doing this. They're not telling me the Chachamim of that level, or they can't gather as a Beit Din because of the political situation. And he takes the responsibility for continuing Kiddush HaChodesh outside of Israel. We need to say about that features in the Yerushalmi and the Rambam, few places, that Kiddush HaChodesh can only be done in Israel unless it can't be done in Israel. And this is the situation we're speaking of now. Kiddush HaChodesh cannot be done in Israel, and it's happening outside of Eretz Israel. This is the background for the story, and here is what happens later on. Shigru acharav shnei talmidei chachamim. The rabbis from Israel send two talmidei chachamim after him. This already sounds a little bit, what is shigru acharav? They sent after him. It sounds like if someone's chasing someone. What's going on here? It tells us who these people are. Rabbi Yossi ben Kippar v'ben bno shel Zechariah ben Kvutal. Okay, they give us the names. The moment we have names, we understand these aren't just two students. These are two students that we known students. They've got a name. They've got people know them. Kivan shera'a otam amar lehem lama batem. He sees them come. He says, "Why did you come? What do you mean? Why did you come here? You came here to learn Torah. We come in." Okay, maybe he sees something strange. He doesn't understand. He knows these are two students that are learning in Eretz Israel. They've got their rabbis in Eretz Israel, and anyway they come in. Maybe he wants to get news from Eretz Israel. He asked them, למה באתם? אמרו לו, ללמוד תורה בנו. They tell him, we came here in order to learn Torah. Okay, that's a great rabbi here, happens to be you, and we want to come and learn Torah from you. Okay, well, הכריז עליהם, אנשים הללו גדולי הדור הם. These people, they great sages. ואבותיהם שימשו בבית המקדש. Not only that, they are descendants of people that still served in Bet HaMikdash. Nowadays, we're in exile. Bet HaMikdash has been destroyed, but these people still, their ancestors served in Bet HaMikdash. How do we know that? כי אותה ששנינו להקדם משנה, in מסכת יומא, in מסכת יומא that speaks about Yom Kippur, זכריה בן כבוטל. Okay, we had here בן בנו של זכריה בן כבוטל, so we have his grandson. But what do we know about זכריה בן כבוטל? אומר, הרבה פעמים קריתי לפניו בספר דניאל. What is this speaking about? The Mishnah describes that the Kohen Gadol, the way they used to prepare him for Yom Kippurim, part of what they do was they used to set him aside and teach him everything, and the actual night of Yom Kippurim, they used to make sure that he doesn't fall asleep. Why are they making sure he's not going to fall asleep? Because they're afraid that if he falls asleep, he'll become impure. This is already a little bit of a strange situation. You've got a Kohen Gadol. Yeah, on Yom Kippur, you would expect him to be in a situation where he's eager to keep himself awake, especially if he's afraid of that happening to him, or else that he's got such holy thoughts that the chance that he'll become impure are very, very low. But we know that in Beit Sheni, especially the last years of Beit Sheni, the situation of the Kohanim Gedolim wasn't great, and they need to keep him awake. What did they do in order to keep him awake? They used to read him stories from the Tanakh, that are going to be good, interesting stories, or fearful stories to keep him going. And זכריה ben Kvutal says on that topic, he says, הרבה פעמים קראתי לפניו בספר דניאל. Many times when I used to read a book to him, I used to read Sefer Daniel. What's so special about Sefer Daniel? Why would someone be reading Sefer Daniel and not one of the other books? Sefer Daniel is a book that's written in Aramaic. Now, I don't know about you guys, but for me, if anyone reads me a story in Aramaic, I'll probably fall asleep because it'll be very hard for me to follow, and I'll really be awake and sharp and listening. But if it's a long story, a whole book of Sefer Daniel, unfortunately, I'll probably fall asleep. So what did they know? So either these Kohanim Gedolim are amazing, Talmidei Chachamim, and they even know Aramaic, or else the only language that they know properly is Aramaic, and the Hebrew isn't very good. And therefore, to keep them awake, you need to read Aramaic. That's probably what's happening in those days. Zechariah ben Kvutal, he sees the situation. These things are difficult. He knows the Kohen Gadol. He's not a great Kohen Gadol. And he understands this is the way to keep him awake. You need to read to him in a foreign language. He does that. Okay, so that's Zechariah ben Kvutal, and now we have his grandson over here. And okay, all of this is the background. What happens is these Yossi ben Rabbi Yossi ben Kippar and Ben Bno shel Zechariah ben Kvutal, they come and they learning together with Rabbi Chanina ben Achid Rabbi Yeshua. Hetchil hu metame vehem metarim. Okay, someone comes with a question to him, and he looks at the question. Everything says, "No, that's impure," and they say, "No, that's pure, no problem." Okay, hu oser vehem metirim. Someone comes and asks, "Are we allowed to do something? Can't we do it?" Rabbi Chanina says, "No, that's forbidden to do." And they say, "No, you can do it. You can go and do it." What have we got here? Just a machloket? Or does this seem to be very deliberate? Every time he says no, or he says impure, they say pure. They say yes. What's going on here? הכריז עליהם, אנשים הללו של שווא הם של תוהו הם. He sees this. He says, these guys, they don't know anything. They worthless. They know nothing. אמרו לו, כבר בנית ואי אתה יכול לסתור, כבר גדרת ואי אתה יכול לפרוט. He said, no, you already announced that you're a great תלמידי חכמים. Too late now. At this point, he realizes, wait, what's going on here? You planned this? What's going on here? Okay. אמר להם, מפני מה אני מטמא ואתם מטהרים, אני אוסר ואתם מתירים. Why are you doing this? He understands it's deliberate. Every time he forbids something, they say it's okay. אמרו לו, what do you expect? You're wrong. We don't agree with you in halacha. No, it's a totally different topic. אמרו לו, מפני שאתה מעבר שנים וקובע חודשים בחוץ לארץ. Say, you can't do this. You announce in Rosh Chodesh over here. If you're doing that, we paskin against you in everything else. Shabbat, Tarat Habayit, everything. We're against you. To a level that not because we think otherwise than you, maybe we agree with you halachically, but we prepare to make people do things they're not allowed to do because what you're doing here is so bad. This is outrageous. This is totally outrageous. What's going on here? אמר להם, ולא עקיבא בן יוסף היה מעבר שנים וקובע חודשים בחוץ לארץ. Rabbi Akiva also, there was a stage where he had to leave Israel and he had to do Kiddush HaChodesh. And that was okay. אמרו לו, אנחנו רבי עקיבא שלא נהיה כמותו בארץ ישראל. They tell him, רבי עקיבא, that's a different story. You're not רבי עקיבא. You're חנינא בן אחי דרבי ישוע. You're not רבי עקיבא. רבי עקיבא, he didn't leave anyone like him in ארץ ישראל. אמר להם, אף אני לא הנחתי כמותי בארץ ישראל. Also, when I left Israel, there was no one else to do it. That's why I'm doing it. If there was a Beit Din in Israel, I would have left the Beit Din in Israel. אמרו לו, גדיים שהנחת נעשו תיישים, בעלי קרניים, והם שיגרונו אצלך. Tell him, you left young תלמידי חכמים. They were like small lambs. They've grown up now. They've got goats with horns, and now they can fight the war of Torah, and they sent us after you. They don't stop here. וכך אמרו לנו, and they told us to deliver a message to you. ואמרו לו בשמנו, and tell him in our name. אם שומע מוטב. If he listens, that's great, fine, perfect. ואם לאו, יהיה בנידוי. And if he doesn't listen, we're going to put him in a nidui. He's going to be banished from everything. ואמרו לאחינו שבגולה, until the community out there. אם שומעים מוטב, if they listen to you, great. ואם לא, יעלו להר. Should go up to the mountain. Achiyai v'nei mizbeach. One of the Kohanim, they should build an altar. Hananiah. Okay, this rabbi, and again Bekinor, probably was a Levi. He can play the violin. ויחפרו כולם ויאמרו אין להם חלק באלוהי יעקב. And everyone can say, we don't belong to God anymore. Okay, this is the message they come. מיד גאו כל העם בבכייה ואמרו חס ושלום, יש לנו חלק באלוהי ישראל. Straight away, the whole congregation says, no, we part of עם ישראל, want to be part of everything. The Gemara now asks, וכל כך למה? Why did they act this way? If you've got an argument, there are ways to deal with it. He's doing that, send him letters, send him an argument, tell him you can't do this, there's a Beit Din now in Israel. Have a correspondence, he'll answer, he won't answer, he'll accept, he won't accept, but there are ways. The ways for arguments between Talmidei Chachamim. Why did they go to such an extreme way? The Gemara says, "Mishum shene'emar ki mitzion tetzeh Torah udvar Hashem Yerushalayim." The Torah has to come from Israel, from Yerushalayim, from Zion, and that's not what is happening here. Bishlema, the Gemara says, we understand hu metaher ve'hem metamim. If they would have been more strict than him, we understand that they were making things stricter. How could they do that? After he said something's forbidden, how could they say it's okay? We know if someone said something's impure, you can't come and say it's pure. Even if you disagree, you can have an argument, another theoretical question. But on this actual incident, you can't tell a family that now they were told that they're impure, that now they pure. You can't do that. They're impure. You can have an argument with the rabbi. Next time round, he gets the same question. Maybe you'll pass it another way around, but you can't do that. That's an issur. Asar en chavero rashai latiro. If he said something is asur, you can't say it's mutar. Okay, so why did they do this? The Gemara says, ki savrei ki hechi de lo nigreu batrei. They were afraid people would follow him, and they wanted to stop anyone following him. Excuse me. So we see there's a very, very strange story here, very peculiar behavior, and the Gemara explains why they did it. The Gemara doesn't say they were wrong. The Gemara explains why they're doing it. What is going on here? Rav Kook, in his commentary, it's not exactly commentary, it's a bi'ur. A bi'ur is not a commentary. A bi'ur is seeing what the Gemara says and bringing related ideas. Okay, it's not exactly a commentary. Okay, it's not saying this is exactly what happened, but saying these are ideas that are related to the story. So Rav Kook has a bi'ur called Einaya on Gemara in Bרכות, and part of the Gemara in Shabbat. And he explains this story, and we'll read part of what he says. It's in the 9th chapter. Anyone who's got Einaya Bרכות Bet, the second volume of Bרכot, 9th chapter, paragraphed Shin Kaf Vav. There are two different editions, so it's two different pages, but I think in both of them it is paragraph Shin Kaf Vav. And he explains what's going on here. Okay, on the fact that he asked them, why are you doing this? Why are you saying everything opposed to me? Rav Kook says the following. Okay, and this is important to see the whole, I think it's a very important message. Okay, Kedushim me'od hema kol pirtei v'dikdukei Torah. Says every single detail in the Torah is very holy. Every mitzvah, every halacha, every accuracy, every diuk is very, very holy. Therefore, ashrei nizhar behem u'mekaimam be'ava. Blessed is a person who's careful about every single detail in the Torah and fulfills it with love and is happy to do it. Some people don't follow it with love, they do it from Yirah. It's also good, not as good, but also good. Avodat Hashem Yirah is also, Be'ezrat Hashem will reach that one day. But if you connect to the Torah and you want to do it and you want to learn the details and see them and follow them, that's the best thing. Ashrei nizhar behem u'mekaimam be'ava. Ve'oi lo, and it's very bad, למי שדש בעקביו אפילו דקדוק של מצווה קלה. It says, oilo, it is very bad. It's very bad for him, for someone who one small accuracy of a small mitzvah he doesn't take seriously. Okay, every single halacha, every detail he takes seriously. Okay, there's no situation where you say, no, I'm in general, I'm doing things are okay in general, but I don't take the details. No, that doesn't work. You have to take care of the details. You have to see the details. Be careful of the details. Learn the details. That's all very, very important. He goes on and says, אמנם, שורש קדושת הפרטים צריכה להיות ניכרת, מפני שהם ענפי הכלל שהם באים ממנו ונמשכים עליו. Okay, he says, but you need to see that the root where they draw their life and power from, of the holiness, of the details, has to be apparent. And what is that? All of the details, they belong to some kind of klal. Klal, when we speak of pratim and klal, we're speaking of a general concept, an idea, and the details that come out of it. Okay, the actual concept is the main thing, and it appears in a lot of different details. Okay, it's like you've got the sun, and you've got sun rays. Sun rays are details coming out of the sun. But if they don't come from the sun, they won't be sun rays. Okay, you can't collect a lot of, sometimes people think that if you take a lot of details, a lot of pratim, put them all together, you get a klal. And then people have a mistaken idea of klal Israel. They think everywhere you've got a gathering, a lot of Jews, that's got to do with klal Israel. Okay, that's a misconcept. The proper concept is a klal. Klal in Hebrew means rule, concept, idea. That's a klal. And the details are the way this rule appears in the world. It's like you've got a human body or a human being. A human being, the klal is his neshama. How does this neshama appear in the world? Well, it's got a ruach, and it's got a nefesh, and it's got a body also. And the body's got a lot of different parts. It's got fingernails, it's got knees, it's got toes, it's got ears, it's got a heart, it's got lungs. All of these are a lot of details, but all of these are details of the appearance of the neshama. And every single cell in the body knows what to do according to its connection to the klal. Otherwise, how does a cell know if it needs to be a cell of a knee, of a toe, of a heel, of a shoulder, of a heart, of a lung? All of the cells are very similar, they're the same. No, but they know what to become and what to turn into because they connect to something general that sends it. That's their connection. If you try and take a lot of cells and put them together and create a human being, you can't work that direction. Okay, so also here with the mitzvot, we need to understand what is the klal, what is the general concept behind everything. Okay, that's what says on Shoresh Kedushat HaPratim, what gives power to all of the details has to be clear, because they are branches of the klal. They branching out from the klal. They come from him. Shem ba'im mimeno v'nimshachim elav. They come from him and they drawn towards it. They connected towards it. And what is it? Ve'klal shekol haTorah kula tluya bo. And what is the rule? The basic concept that the whole Torah is connected to? Hu kiyum am Hashem bekol tzivyono v'tmimuto. The whole Torah is about the appearance of Am Yisrael. The Torah, we know, was given to a nation. The Torah wasn't given to Avraham Avinu or to Yitzchak Avinu. And also Moshe Rabbeinu, when he receives the Torah, it's only because there's already a nation standing around in order to receive it. First, God creates the nation, takes us to Egypt and out of Egypt, and we turn from individuals into a nation. And then when there's a nation, the Torah can now be delivered to the world. The Torah can now come to the world. And the Torah is the Torah of the Jewish people. It's not a way for individuals. An individual wants to be a good individual, he'll follow the Torah. Rabbi Yaron once told us that, I can't remember how many years ago, he met this Japanese guy in Israel. And this Japanese person, non-Jewish, but he used to put on tefillin every day, and he was trying to be shomer mitzvot. He sees him also put him on tefillin on Shabbos. He says, "What are you doing?" He says, "Doesn't say anyway. You don't put on tefillin on Shabbos." Because theoretically, someone who misunderstands the Torah can think that there are a lot of mitzvot here, and he's fulfilling the mitzvot, but he missed out that it's all about God telling Avraham, "Go to Israel to become a great nation." And after we become a great nation, we receive the Torah. And when we receive the Torah, the Psukim say, "Yom hazeh nihiyeta le'am." Now you're a proper nation. Because the nation without the Torah is still lacking. The Torah is here too. The way to execute the Torah is via the nation. The Torah is a Torah of a nation. Okay, it's a Torah of the Jewish nation. So if you misunderstand that, if you think that it's just about me living a good Jewish life, I've got my Yiddishkeit, I've got my ways of doing things, no, it's wrong. It has to be, but it's part of your connection. It's part of you living as a proper detail, a proper prat in this nation. Okay, it says, "Klal shekol haTorah kula tluya bo, kiyum am Hashem bekol tzivyono." Okay, the nation has to live with all of its ways of living, v'tmimuto, whole, the way it should be. Shehu efshar dafka be'eretz Yisrael, and this can happen only in the land of Israel. Am Yisrael cannot live as a nation properly outside of the land of Israel. Okay, I'll just mention like a small thing at the side of that. That's the reason we have more mitzvot in Eretz Yisrael, is because in Eretz Yisrael, this is where we can appear properly as a nation. Because we can appear properly as a nation, it means that this is a place where the relationship we can feature properly in our full scale. That's why we say mitzvot atluyot ba'aretz and not eretz atluya b'mitzvot. Means the value of the land is not dependent on the fact that we can fulfill mitzvot over here, but because the land has a special value, so the more mitzvot over here, the same as the more the relationship we're involved in is more special and more unique. Therefore, there are going to be more obligations in this relationship. When I walk in the street and someone's walking on the sidewalk across the road, there's nothing. There are no obligations between me and him. We're not allowed to harm each other, kind of thing. If he's already walking on the same sidewalk I'm walking, so it would be proper if I smile towards him, because there's already some kind of interaction. I need to affect him. If it's someone that I love, I work together with them, I go to school with them, then there's going to be more halachot, because we're going to be in close quarters all together. So there are more things of the way we need to act towards each other, all coming out of the basic concept of V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. The minute it's a married relationship, so there are many more mitzvot that come in, because our obligations towards each other are greater, and the potential of the connection is way greater. But we don't get married in order to fulfill more mitzvot. But because we get married and there's such a great value for marriage, so there are more mitzvot and more details of how to do it. Same thing with Eretz Israel. Because of the great value of Eretz Israel, because of that, the more mitzvot over here in Eretz Israel. And a major aspect of the great value of Eretz Israel is the fact that only in Eretz Israel, Am Israel can properly be Am Israel. And therefore, for this interaction, for Am Israel to live properly as Am Israel, which can happen only in Eretz Israel, that brings out a lot of extra mitzvot. Okay, so going back here to what Rav Kook's saying over here, הכלל שכל התורה כולה תלויה בו הוא קיום עם השם בכל צבעינו ותמימותו. Is the basic concept is Am Israel living in its full scale the way it is with all of different elements, and this is possible שהוא אפשר דווקא בארץ ישראל, and this is possible only in Eretz Israel. From here, Rav Kook is going to move on to explain now why all of this argument happens specifically about Kiddush HaChodesh. Why is it happening about the special power Am Israel has to give value to the charms and to decide when it's a leap month, when it's a leap year. And he says the following: על כן, באשר קדושת הזמנים היא היסוד של קיום התורה ועיקריה. Okay, so there's something special about the times, the value of times, which is a foundation of maintaining the Torah, and one of the main things. והוראה שלמה על נצחיותה. Also, קדושת הזמנים has got to do with the fact that the Torah is eternal. Okay? Doesn't matter what's happening in the different times. There's a way to do things. There's no situation where the Torah is going to be outdated. Okay? It's expired. It's meaningless. No. Torah will always remain relevant. It's beyond the time. It may appear in different ways, in different times, but it's beyond the time. And part of what shows the Torah is eternal is the fact that it can relate to all of the changes in times that happen. Okay, maybe this concept we'll have to explain some other time, because it's a little bit of a... Let's going slightly more into detail. What exactly is Kedushat HaZmanim? We'll need a little bit more of explanation over here. So in the meantime, we leave it like this, and maybe next time we'll go more into detail about this. Okay, והוראה שלמה על נצחיותה, שהיא שולטת על הזמנים, the Torah controls the times, ואין הזמנים שולטים עליה, and the time doesn't have any effect on it in the material world. We know that the time has an effect on us. We're always captured in a certain time. We wear out the material world. Time makes things wear out. Everything. Live things and also everything. Everything wears out as when time goes as time goes on. Unlike eternal concepts which are more spiritual, like the Torah, like Am Israel, which always continue thriving and living. Okay, so something like this that shows the eternal, how the Torah is eternal, צריכה להיות שייכה לארץ ישראל. This has to be connected to Eretz Israel. To teach us that the Torah, להורות כי אין אפשר לתורת הקודש שתוכר בתורדת נפרדת מהתכלית של קיום האומה וגדולתה בכל צדדיה. That's because the Torah, which is eternal, is connected to the nation living as the nation should be, with all of the aspects of the nation. And only then are we living in a full situation. So only when we've got Am Israel in Eretz Israel, according to the Torah, and this concept of being eternal is very clearly related to this. This is when things are property. This is when everything draws its power from Am Israel, from the Torah. And this whole concept of Kiddush HaChodesh, and we'll deal with this again another time, is done properly in Eretz Israel. Only that's when things are proper. But when, unfortunately, בהינתן היסוד והצד המורה על כלל התורה ונצחיותה יוקח מארץ חמדתנו לחו"ל. But when we take now this idea within Judaism that shows how it's eternal, and we take it from Israel out to exile, it could create a situation where people will think that the religion can stay separate from the national aspect. And when we try and separate the religious aspect from the national aspect, that's a misunderstanding of Judaism. Okay, this isn't just another aspect in Judaism that also, apart from being Jews, we also have a nation. No, Judaism is about being a proper nation in Eretz Yisrael, with all of what being a nation means. Okay, if it's economy and military and education and culture and healthcare and all of these things, all of these different aspects of being a nation, all of this is proper Jewish life. That's what it's about. We need to find the proper Jewish way of doing it. Unfortunately, we're aware of that sometimes things like this are not done according to Torah, and that's also a big problem, but that's not the problem we're speaking of here. The problem we're speaking of here is when you separate these things and say Torah is separate and nationality is separate, well, then it's separate, and we see what happens when people try and separate it. Okay, we're unfortunately very aware of that aspect of things. Because of that, they did all of this in order to make this point clear. This is why they went to that kind of extreme, to say, no, we're going to, as if come and say, the details don't matter anymore. If you're doing these details and you're doing it outside of Eretz Yisrael, thinking that the Torah is eternal, regardless of being a nation, we're telling you, we're going to make you be Mechalel Shabbat. And other terrible things like that, deliberately, because you think that keeping these details is the main thing, and we tell you that the main concept is the main thing. Okay, this is what Rabbi Abba and Rav Safra are doing, this is what these two rabbis are doing, this is what the Gemara explains to us why this was legitimate to go in this way. Be'ezrat Hashem, to be continued.